You want me to call the ambulance? He said, call him. Is this the way he gonna leave me? 2012, September 3rd.
I've been trying to find my way. Take me by the hand and let's go find our own space. Somewhere in between you and me. It's a piece of magic that we need to release. Ooh, and now you're looking for a good time.
It was a day that it was nothing spectacular about that day. The holiday, it was a holiday. Weather was beautiful. Mike was laying on the couch in the living room, but I noticed he was watching me, and it wasn't anything that I had to, I didn't feel uncomfortable with it. He always watched me. But this particular day, I noticed that he was really watching me, and I felt him. He was quiet that day. So as we were moving along, my daughter, she was in her bedroom with her music playing loud, and I was in the kitchen cleaning up and vacuuming, and just I walked up to him. I was like, hey, you want to go to the movies? And he was like, yeah, I want to go to the movies. And I was okay. So the movie Lawless had just came out, and he wanted to go see that. So it was a Mike day. It was truly a Mike day. And so we went to 7-Eleven. Well, actually, let me back up. My daughter cooked. We had hamburgers and french fries. The best hamburgers and french fries. That girl can cook. The gas station is 7-Eleven to go and get some gas. My son called, and he wanted to holler at Dad. He wanted to talk to Pops. They called him Pops. Talking to my son, and he said, you know what, boy, you need to come home a little more often, because your mama do her best cooking. She make the best breakfast when you come home. So me, him, and J Baby, after they laughed and talked about that, went on to the movies, and he sat between us like he always did. Nothing out of the ordinary, but he was quiet. My daughter had just informed us that Michael Clark Duncan, I don't know if you remember him, but he had just died. He had had complications from a heart attack. 54 years old, young brother. I truly believe Mike knew that he was leaving. How, you say, how did you know, Charlie? It was just some things that he had said to me and had expressed to me. Also, someone else who had passed was Griselda Blanco. They call her godmother. We got back home. He was still hungry. He wanted to eat again. And I was selling Avon at the time. No, Mary Kay, excuse me. I was selling Mary Kay. And so I had to make a run, and I told him I'll be back. But when I came back, I was sitting in the driveway. And while I was sitting in the driveway, there was a police car that turned their lights on, and they flashed the lights on at my house. I didn't know what that was about, because it was an emergency that was about to happen, and I didn't even know it. So my daughter, less than 10 minutes later, she come running out, and she was like, Dad needs you. So I jumped out the car, and I'm like, what's the matter? What's going on? And she said, come see about him. I went in, and he was sitting on the toilet, and he was sweating a lot. So I took a cold towel, and I wiped his head. And I said, you want me to call the ambulance? None of that had ever came to me. He had never asked, he had been sick before, but he never needed an ambulance. We just made a doctor's appointment. But after I called 911 and they were on their way, then is when the panic set in for me. because I'm standing there watching my husband. I'm trying to help him as much as I can. Not knowing what we were getting ready to experience. Not realizing that our life was about to change forever. It's still like it just happened. Although it was 7 years ago. I miss him. Truly, I miss him. We went to the hospital. The ambulance finally came. In his last words, he said, "This is a different feeling." This is what he was telling the paramedics. "I've never felt this before." And I don't know if he was saying that loud enough. He said it loud enough so I could hear him. So I just assumed maybe he's having a heart attack or a stroke. I don't know, but he had never really been sick before like this. So whatever it was, they was going to fix it, and we were going to be able to come back home, and maybe he had to recovery, and we was going to have to change our situation so we can accommodate him and help him. Whatever we was going to need to do, we was ready for that, me and my daughter. She had just turned 17 the month before. She had just started her senior year in high school. All of the other kids had graduated and moved on, and she was the baby. And she was the last one there with he and I. And we loved it. Actually, we was having fun just with her. Adjusting. My son had just moved to Vegas. He had been in Vegas for a little while. But as we were sitting in that hospital, I dozed off to sleep. And when I dozed off to sleep, I saw his head in a casket. And at that very moment, they called our name. And my daughter and I, we jumped up. And I said, "Can I go see him now? Can we go see him?" And they put us in this room, and the room was cold. And I told my daughter, "I'm going to stand because this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right." And it seemed like it took them forever to come in there and talk to us. And when they came, they told us that Mr. Bilbo was leaving. How could he be leaving? And we had just come from the movies. We were just laughing. We had just had dinner. We had just had a great day. How could he be leaving? But he was leaving. And I think he just really wanted to make sure that we had a great day. Our last day to be memorable with him. After we got back home, I was going through his wallet. And I had never, the 23 years that I had been married to him, I had never went in his wallet. But I went in his wallet and I found this picture of he and I that was taken years before my daughter was even born. And he had that tucked in there with his driver's license. I truly know that that man loved me. Sometimes I questioned it, but he loved me. I'm still emotional because this is where everything began for me. It's like, death is like a baby being born. You never forget the date, and it's significant to you. The ups and the downs and the ins and the outs. We struggled and we succeeded. We loved and we fought and we made up, and we continued to grow as a family. There was no separation. I was scared and nervous and anxiety, and he left me first. There was 8 others after him, but he left first so I can grieve and so he could prepare me for what was coming. This video is dedicated to Mike.